And that is the front page of this brochure, what I wrote in by the help of the Spodiliten font. And the idea was that I write some articles about how the treatment in Institute works, and also something about impact of the lifestyles on our health and the disease. From my experience, what I have during all this more than 30 years working is that people really don't understand when we say you have to change some lifestyles or take care about diet or activity, sleeping. It's still unclear what it really means. So I decided in this brochure to write the first 3 topics which can be maybe strange for you, that is in connection with some kind of health problems. And there is some information about our general life, our connection with the world around us, about the water, what we hold inside of us, and information communication between, and also how the chronic inflammation come, and then the rest is about work of the treatment. So the first question which most of the people who get the rheumatic disease have is my disease genetic? And it has been proven through the research in the last decades that less than 5% of all diseases is genetic, and there is still not solid evidence that in this 5% include rheumatic diseases, which is good news. In recent years, research is focused on the epigenetics factors, which means the factors which influence our life, because these factors can change our genes. So we first of all have to understand where we live. And so far it's known that there is about 100 billion galaxies in the visible universe, and the Milky Way where we are is just one of them. And planet Earth is just one of the billions planets in the Milky Way. And that vast space is influences with a variety of interplanetary energies. And we have to take it in mind that all these energies affect us. We register our world around us through our senses, but this range of information is very limited. For example, we can hear a sound between 20 Hz and 20 kHz. Infrasound and ultrasound we don't realize, but it's still affecting us. I will give you one very simple example. For example, the forces which, attractive forces of the sun and the moon, which move the ocean water, which have mass around 1.44 trillion tons, is it possible that this kind of force not affecting us? And how it look like ocean or sea, independing of the morning and the evening, depending on the attractive force. So something which is very close to the Norwegian people is this light, but that is something what we can see. But there is a huge amount of energies which we don't see and don't feel, but still affecting us. So the researchers through the history tried to find out how the universe works, and thankful to this knowledge we have comfort life now, as without some researchers like Einstein or Tesla we will not have all these devices. But I will just mention some other guys. For example, mathematician and physicist and philosopher Galileo Galilei, he said that mathematics is a language how God wrote the universe. And one other guy, Leonardo Fibonacci, found out that some numbers follow each other in some logical sequence. And this sequence we call the Fibonacci sequence. Why it's interesting? It's a start with a 0, but each number we choose, for example, is the sum of the previous two, whatever, and it's an infinitive sequence. And also interesting thing is that when you divide some of these numbers, for example, with the previous one, you will get the results which is very much near 1.6. And that is something what this ratio, 1.618 or 1.6, is something what we call the perfect proportion or the golden ratio. And everything, absolutely everything in the nature is made up by the perfect proportion. This number in a percentage of 100% means that in our anatomy and anatomy of all other beings, the relationship between two fragments is always 32% to the 38% to the 62%. It's not 50-50, it's a 38-62. What it means, if you, for example, see the smaller part of the finger and the next one, it's a 38 in comparing with the 62. If you follow this one and this one, it's the same. If you follow this and this, it's the same. If you follow the hand and the rest, it's the same. And that is the same with the legs, it's the same with the whole body, it's the same all over in the nature. Something which is proportion. Also, when we use these Fibonacci numbers and use it and show it in a square, that is 1, but it's small, and connect these dots diagonally, we get something what is a spiral movement, and how the numbers become bigger, then the spiral become bigger. And spiral is the symbol of elasticity, compromise, and infinity. And spiral movement is have a large amount of energy. And in the nature, you can see in anatomy and in the movements and all over and all over, and in our body, our bloods are moving spirally. Our air is moving spirally in our bronchia, so it's some kind of general law. Also, if we want to analyze some parts of the body or analyze whatever, it's enough to take only small part, which we call a fractal, and to understand the rest. For example, if you want to understand how your liver is working, it's not necessary to analyze the whole liver. You can just use one cell and understand the working on the rest. That is how it looks like in nature. It's this fractal principle. You can just analyze the part of the DNA. It's not necessary the whole line. And you can see that this principle and also spiral movements, it's all over in the nature. When we are talking about water, which make 2/3 of our body, so the question which arises is how we are not just a water balloon and how we keep our shape. And the other interesting question is if water is made just from the two simple chemicals like hydrogen and oxygen, where our uniqueness come from. I have to mention the Professor Gerald Pollack, who is a PhD in biomedical engineering from the University of Washington, because he made up a revolutionary theory about structure of the water, And that is only one of that is only one of his book. He wrote a few of them, and he explained that when water come in the contact with some surface, that all the substances which is dissolved in the water just go away from the surface and make some zone which is looking like empty, and he called it exclusion zone or easy zone, and it's looking like that. He found out that is some kind of membrane, we can say, and just all these particles from water move out. And if he put the light on the water, then this process be more effective. And something which is interesting, that this zone of water, this easy zone, have totally different structure in comparing with the rest of water. It's have a structure of the gel-like structure, and it's negatively charged, and this electricity or negative charging together with this gel structure makes that the surfaces of the water have some different properties, like a voltage. So he found out that because of that the clouds have some kind of structures. If not, the water disperses in the air. It's also why the coin can float in the water, or the structure of the drops. Something which is important for the health is that for our biology, that in contact with these structures, water become charged and negatively charged, and it makes that our body is working like a battery, water working like a battery. And because the contact with the membrane makes electricity, that is why the mitochondria in our body, which we call the cell power plants in our body, have a huge number of membranes. So that is why it can produce the electricity on some way, and each cells. In mitochondria, it's happened process of the burning sugar and fat from the food, and results of this process is water, intracellular water, and releasing energy. And for the normal work of our mitochondria, it's necessary that we have enough oxygen, which comes through the blood, and sunlight improve the effectiveness, and you can feel that when you spend some time on the sunlight, that you are feeling more energetic. Different cells have different number of mitochondria. It's approximately 1,000 to 2,000, but cells which need more energy, which are more active, have a bigger number of the mitochondria. For example, the brain cells, liver cells, and muscle cells. Also, this charging of the water makes a possibility that water can transform the information between the cells. And when you compare internal water, it's very near like the advanced liquid crystal display, which also have liquid crystal structures just like our water. And that is fast moving of the information without so much energy. Something about sleeping and the biological clock. All the living beings have established some kind of biological rhythm which helps them to adapt to the around world. And the main rhythm is circadian rhythm. This is 24 hours rhythm, which help us to live in a harmony with the nature. because this rhythm regulates nearby all the body functions, and each cell have own clock inside, but all of them are in a harmony with the central clock, which is in the hypothalamus, this part of the brain. And when we are talking about circadian rhythm, it means that body is designed that have different function during the day and different function during the night. And that is what all the living beings know. And if you see how the animals are different in the morning, in the evening, and that after some time when it's darkness, it's everything calm down, and in the morning it's very high activity. Only humans disturb this rhythm because we have light all over, and we have light when we are going to the bed, and that is something which confuses our system. So why sleep is important? Sleep change brain activity, change hormonal activity, and also during the sleep it's an active autophagy process. And sleeping is going in phases, and few phases make up one cycle, and cycle also repeat around 45 times during the night. And it's not just changing in the brain activity, it's a changing in the respiration, in the heart rhythm, in the body temperature. In some phases body temperature fall down, in some is warm. And also during the sleep, a brain process only this basic activity. It's not so much information from outside. Some just general information that during this NREM sleep, what we call, that is the sleep when is no eye movements, it's decreasing in brain activity, slow down, and it's also decreasing in the blood pressure, in the heart rate, and whole metabolism is going down around 10 to 30%, which help us to keep the energy and restore energy for the next day. The other type of sleeping is REM phase, which is rapid or quick eye movements phase. It's totally different. The brain is very active, but you still cannot wake up the person. So we call it paradoxal, because when you make measurement of the brain, it's active like during the day even more, but body is sleeping. And that is very much mental clearness, alertness in a sleeping body. And in this REM sleeping, it's opposite. It's heart rate is going up, and blood pressure is going up even more than during the day. And it's a very, very active part of the sleeping, where we are usually have dreams. But the important is because this part of the sleeping is very necessary for our mental health and for our cognitive functions. It means our ability to be focused, to memorize, especially for the long-term memory. When we are talking about hormone activity, it's a different type of hormone activity during the night, but something which is more important is melatonin activity. Many people use melatonin to sleep, but melatonin begin to produce around 8 o'clock in the evening, but the maximum concentration is between the midnight and 4 o'clock. And to produce melatonin in the brain, it's a necessary darkness. So it's important, especially in this part of the night, to sleep in the dark room. Melatonin have effect of all this brain activity, but also have anti-inflammatory effect, prevent some metabolic diseases, because it's have effect of this mitochondrial health. And also melatonin helps us to deal with the stress and to deal with the time changing. When the people travel through the time zones, if they have a long trip, after this they become a little bit confused, not just tired, confused, because it's not the same circadian rhythm in the same zones when the sun rises. And that is something what we call jet lag. The same problem have people who are working in a different shift during the night and in the day and move and complicate the brain function. The other important hormone is growth hormone, which is responsible for growth hormone secretion is mostly in the beginning of the sleeping, and it's impossible to make up our proteins which build up our body. Also for division and renewal of the cells. And also growth hormone helps the people who have overweight, because during the night growth hormone used fatty acid from the fat deposit as an energy source, which is good information for people who want to go down. Autophagy process is a natural process that is destructive mechanism by which we take out the poorly functioning parts of our cells and replace by the new ones. And it helps with fighting with the disease and with aging. And the man who explained this process get the Nobel Prize in 2016. To autophagy to be effective, it's necessary to go to sleep not with a full stomach, because if you just eat and go to sleep, then your body will fighting with the digestion, and people who take a meal maybe 2-3 hours before sleeping have much more effective autophagy. Only a few words about immunity. That is, as we said before, that is interaction between world around us and different pathogens and microorganisms. But most of this microorganism is not danger for us, so we are not fighting with. If something is a danger, then the immune system be activating, and it's a 3-layer of the immune system. One is anatomical or chemical barriers, like enzymes on the skin, like acid in the stomach, which help us with the majority of the pathogens. But if these barriers not function well or be broken down, then take a place inborn immunity or innate immunity, which be effective after 4 to 96 hours after the pathogen come into the system. And it works that just there is blood cells which take a pathogen and easily set it, just digest eat them. That is something what we call phagocytosis. The third part of the immune system, which is the most effective, is the adaptive immune system. And something what affects the adaptive immune system is just that they have to recognize that some pathogen is there, when the babies come to the birth channel, they meet a different kind of pathogens, but the body intelligence tell them that is not all of them is harmful, and as you can see, baby are not so much clean when come out, and they meet different pathogens and make some kind of adaptation to them. But during the life, the adaptive immune response come through the pathogens which make us, which is danger to us, and also in tonzilla, we have kind of information system, and you can see that small babies put everything in the mouth, and then they learn the body and introduce the pathogen and figure out the system which can fight later with this. So as I said, the immunity is activating, this adaptive immunity is activating only if the previous 2-1 is not worked properly, and that is what is made by activating the lymphocyte, B and T cells, you know that from the biologic medication. This adaptive immunity need a little bit longer time. That is unlimited number of pathogens, but need a time. In comparing with the inborn immunity, which come up very quickly, but limited number of pathogens. And the adaptive immune system is have two aspects. Memory and tolerance. First of all, to tolerance to not fight against own body, and the memory that they can recognize some pathogens and react to them much later after the first interaction. So what is some kind of key aspect of the health? It's harmonizing 4 aspects. It's physical, mental, energetic, and spiritual. The physical is mostly related to the diet and physical activity. The mental health is related to the managing thoughts and emotions. The emotional include these two and connection with the nature. Spiritual is, no matter what you believe in, is a measure of unity, belonging and giving to the community, and respecting and accepting diversity. And when all these aspects are in harmony, then people live with healthy and with ease mostly. What is connection between food and chronic inflammation? When we compare the natural food like fruits, vegetables and such kind of food, in comparing with the processed food, as we know, as I said, about negatively charged water in us, it's the same in fruits, it's the same in vegetables. That is something which is natural and which is negatively charged. Processed food, processing the food means losing this negatively charged effects. And that is why you will very often read that processed food is protonic food, and that is why we are very often, after eating some kind of that kind of food, very tired. Also, when we are heating or preparing this processed food, we lose the beneficial effects of the vitamins, enzymes, and other nutrients. Also, to prevent the spoilage. Food is very often processed with some preservatives and additives, which is not healthy even if in a small concentration. So that is how it's look like the natural and how it's look like processed food. And processed food always have a nice package to invite you to buy it. About digestion of food, for complete digestion of the fruits and vegetables, you need around 2 to 4 hours. For the cook vegetables, around 5-6 hours. And to process the meat in the stomach, it's depending on the kind of meat, it's usually 24 to 72 hours. And then when we are thinking about the temperature in our stomach is a tropic temperature between 36 and 37 degrees, you can imagine how it's look like. The fresh fruits and the vegetable after 2 to 4 hours in a temperature of 36 degrees will be enough good. cooked vegetables, maybe after this 4-6 hours will have some extra bacteria, but meat after 24 to 72 hours in a tropic climate will be for sure very bad. And something what happened is that this difficult to digest food increase much bacterial activity in the gut, and this make that first of all it's take a lot of energy, and the other thing is that this toxic what we produce in the stomach come out into the bloodstream. And why the interval between meals is so important, that we are not eating all the time. As I said about glycosylated hemoglobin, after the meal the glucose rise up in the blood and then stimulate the insulin to rise up. And when everything is working properly, then insulin open the gap of the cells come in after 2 hours, everything, the glucose and the insulin slow down. But what's happened when we are eating or taking some very caloric drinking like I do now, is that the sugar level is constantly higher, and then it's constantly stimulate the insulin to be higher, and after some period of time that insulin level, which is all the time higher, cells become absolutely insensitive. Like when you are in a club and you are hearing loud music, and after some period of time you just not register it. It's the same with the cells. They are not have reaction of the insulin, and that results of that is that you have a high concentration of the sugar in the blood and high concentration of the insulin, but you are still feeling hungry and your cells are in a bit hungry. That is why insulin resistance is always in connection with metabolic problems. And this extra sugar in the blood usually be transformed into the liver as a fat or in the muscles. And when it's come in the area around stomach, then it's not just aesthetic problem, it's a problem because of the keeping toxins and secretion of the hormones like leptin, which is control hormone for the metabolism and energy. And leptin send the brain information, now it's okay, it's enough food, it's necessary to stop. But when it's elevated all the time because we have too much fat, then the brain become also insensitive on the leptin signal. So if you are not completely sure do you have leptin resistance, it's enough to see in picture in the mirror. And leptin resistance is always in connection with the chronic inflammation in the body, and you can see the huge amount of the problems which have people with overweight, but it's also insulin resistant and leptin resistance can have people who don't have overweight. Liver is the organ which clean our body, and that is why the circulation is very intensive through the liver. It's clean all the microorganisms, heavy metals, additives, whatever comes through the food and through the air, and that is a huge amount of job. And extra problem is when we are not taking care about our gut, when we have a leaky gut and all the time some toxins come back to the liver and traumatize liver many times. And this high level job needs a huge amount of energy. That is why around 20% of the liver cells is only made from the mitochondria. And liver have extremely good possibility to regenerate, to make new cells. But if you traumatize all the time with different things, then the liver lose ability to work some other function, like synthesizing some proteins, cholesterol, that all these things, minerals, vitamins. That is all this list is liver job. Also, if you use some medication which is toxic for the liver, in this group is especially important to say that is cholesterol drugs, also immunomodulator, cytostatics, painkillers, contraceptives, as well as the alcohol, malt, narcotics, and so on. When we are talking about activity, I will just show you the list of the topic you can read in a brochure, because it's too much. It's just how a lifestyle, regime, and inactivity, how inactivity changed the regime of our body. And what we have to keep in mind when we are making a plan about physical activity, and why the group training is good for some, not for the others, and why the individual exercise is very important. What is the benefits of training in outdoor and in the warm pools, and how to make a proper level of activity, and about high intensity interval training. And I think that good treatment is always based on assessment of the general condition, energy level, disease activity, pain intensity, and general condition of the body. Also, you can read in the brochure about breathing exercise as a key for the self-regulation. Also, I write a little bit about different physical therapy in Institut Igalo, because often people ask what's happened when I get some electrotherapy, magnetotherapy, laser, whatever. So that is some information about that. That is just in the pictures. How it look like, and maybe for somebody can be interesting to read about. Also, why is massage in our program, and something about climate therapy or natural factors and climate. Also, there is one article about mental health and what means intellect, identity, memory, pure intelligence, how we what is the difference between thoughts and emotion, and emotion management, which is basic of the mental health. And my recommendation is don't let your emotional life be controlled by the others. We have to learn how to find out that. Also, fixing on the others is absolutely not your business, but in you, what you want should be 100% your way. There it will be a little bit about stress as a health problem, and also this balance autonomic neuroactivity, what was the theme in the previous presentation, and the importance of these relaxation techniques. Also, it's about immunity and about the microbiome. We was talking about this. Also, importance of the sun for health. Sun is important because of the establishing circadian rhythm by the signal of outside lightning. Also, for energy production in mitochondria and that negatively charged water. Production of the vitamin D, improvement in the cognitive function and mood. Also important of the vitamins and minerals. It's necessary to take care about water you drink. And it will be, you can read about the negative impact of the electromagnetic radiation from the devices we use, and why it's necessary to be in nature, and about the Schumann resonance, and about living consciously, not like automatically without be focus. And that is why it's always people ask why the Igalo treatment helps, and it's a question: is it a magic formula or it's a just holistic approach? In one article you can read about a little bit about history of the Institut Igalo and about the concept of the Norwegian program in Igalo, which include morning training, which is not important only for the stretching, elasticity, activity, etc. It's very important because beginning the day with the stimulating the circadian rhythm, and that light regulate the system. Also breathing exercise, which is important to open the chest, that heart and lungs function easily, that is more elastic, and if you work it properly, it's also effect on the autonomic nerve system. Why the individual treatment is so much important for the rheumatic patient, and why the water training and effect of the chemical in water, warm and everything. Also why the warm treatment is important for relaxing and other things. Why massage is not just cosmetic, they have some effects. And why our climate is also very important for the health. Yeah, so that is what I was writing in Persian.